Hey, what is going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're having a good day so far. Hopefully, you're having a great week so far. It is right. We're pretty much through the first week of 2021, so hopefully, everybody's having a good one, guys. It is another episode of MillenniYell with Billy and Mel. Here we are, guys. Right, and we're going to be talking about a little bit of an interesting topic. We're going to be talking about side hustles. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation to kind of see what our thoughts are on starting side hustles and what it means to people. Maybe it's making a little extra money and those types of things. But before we get into all that, please make sure you comment who you are, where you're from. We would love to give you a shout out. And if you're going to be jumping on the replay, or listening to us on one of the other platforms, please make sure you let us know that you did that because we definitely want to give you a shout out. So, Mel, how are you doing? How's your week been?
It's good. I'm more settled. You can see. I'll share my screen a little bit more of my office getting decorated and got my little setup here. And yeah, it's good. And I actually filmed a little bit for my Why Not Yell with Mel about my move. I wasn't going to do it live because, sometimes me and wine, I might need to edit some things, but I'll be posting that on Monday. So I'm excited. So you guys have to check that out. A little bit about what's been going on. So yeah, and I'm excited. This is kind of a side hustle, even though we're not, we're not making any money. It's like a side. It eventually will be, but yeah, I have had some great conversations with people, ironically, about side hustles. So I'm ready to yell today.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Like I was thinking about it because I actually posted earlier this week about side hustles, and it was like, so you want to start a side hustle? And I think a lot of people in 2020, uh, lost their main job, right? Lost their main career,
Yep.
and they started scrambling and thinking. Like I know people that started doing what's the delivery system where you're delivering food and stuff like that. Grubhub and or whatever. Yeah.
Soon to be Sweet Ride.
So, but you started seeing people doing these things, and there's still, and I think you're going to see a lot of people still continue to do those things because, having there's a I can't remember where I read it, but someone said that having one source of income, you're one step away from being broke, and it's really truth, right? You're it. We never saw 2020 coming and having income just disappear. So, I think it's more important than ever to have
Yeah.
multiple streams of income coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I with my leadership Harrisburg, we do our Wednesday conference. It's been via Zoom, but this month was about education, and we had a lot of superintendents and people from the Department of Education and different school boards and stuff. And one of them, I think it was Susquehanna Township, which is where I went, Hannah Hood. But I'm pretty sure she said the average household income, and maybe it wasn't, but I know that there was a statistic of $44,000, which was a household income. So I don't know what it was, but I'm just saying, like, bringing that into the conversation of where you would be if that was your whole income, household income. A side hustle would be something that you might consider to bring in a little bit more income.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I guess the first thing is, and we've already started kind of talking about it. Why to start a side hustle, and there's so many different things to do out there, let alone just stuff that you're passionate about. But I think one is a necessity, like you said, bringing in extra money, right? We were talking about it before we jumped on here. Another reason people jump into side hustles is maybe they're not as passionate about what they do as a day job. I think that's an important kind of topic to talk about too. As millennials, that was one of, I mean, I can definitely post the article in the comment section, but that article that Mel shared with me, that was one of the reasons is that a lot of millennials in general aren't as passionate about their career as maybe they thought they were.
Yeah, and I think that it's also, yeah, it would definitely give you more money for bills, and for savings, obviously too. But yeah, there's people who do start side hustles as a hobby, and it turns into a new career too. Whether they like their job or not, sometimes it could be where they end up leaving their job because it's becoming more lucrative. But yeah, I think you can definitely build more skills too. Educate. We always want to be learning and educating ourselves. I think you could be building a website or doing your accounting or having to do digital media, social media, and marketing, and so you kind of be able to learn new things as you're doing your side hustle too, new skills.
Yeah. I mean, just like you, for instance, like your main thing was the cards and the stock and the stuff like that for weddings and whatnot. And then all of a sudden all right, well, maybe I can do a couple logos, right? And then that got to branding and then helping people with that aspect of what they do. And then for me, like being in the world of finance now was a complete side hustle. I was, working a full-time career in hospitality, and I was not passionate about that anymore. Got really super passionate about this and said, you know what, it's time to make this side hustle the main hustle, right? And so I think it happens for a lot of people. It's interesting. I wonder what if anybody's watching or us on live. Let us know some of your side hustles in the comment section. We'd love to see those and see what kind of side hustles that you're involved with. Regardless of what business it is, just let us know because we'd love to give you a little shout out too. But that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also helps. It allows you to maybe help people. It could be whether it's through charity, having more money to maybe give back or provide, resources for other people or pay other people to do work for you, and you're, expanding, being able to help other people, and just giving you the, I don't know, in a sense, peace of mind that you have some extra money. Just having that extra, maybe it's a little less stress for you, having that extra money or something to do, taking your mind off of things. And, especially with 2020, I know that there were things that we did with the mask drive, and it allowed people to have a purpose, just being able to do something.
Here's a question for you. Does a side hustle always have to make you money? Could it be volunteering? That's not necessarily a hustle, I guess, but like you just mentioned, like cutting down the stress level of something, maybe it's something that you do that, I mean, is volunteering a side hustle?
Right. I would say yes, but Gary Vee would say no. The biggest promoter of side hustle is Gary Vee. I would think right now and he's obviously going to tell you it's about making money, whether it's going and yard sailing and buying stuff for $1 and selling it online for 10. He talks about that a lot, but I would think I'm sure, when you hear the word side hustle, it's definitely more about generating extra income. But I would say that there's definitely a lot of other benefits mentally and emotionally and physically that you could get from it, not just financially. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, just to go back to the Gary Vee thing, he often talks a lot about, love for yourself, recharging yourself. It's all about, so I think maybe for a lot of people, maybe not for a lot of people, but maybe for some people, their volunteerish business starts off as that,
Hmm.
and then it kind of takes because nonprofits start that way all the time. If you're in the missions field and stuff like that, it could start off as a nonprofit, and then all of a sudden it kind of takes a life of its own and takes more
Right.
of your time than your full-time job.
Well, yeah, and I had mentioned too, like helping people, like, if you start a side hustle and you need somebody to do your social media or your logo or your this, and you may end up hiring people for those services, and you might be able to help them in a sense. But I think if you think of helping people with your side hustle, it could be that you're filling a need if there's a void for something. So even if you started out as a nonprofit or you were volunteering doing something, you might find out, wow, there's really a need for this, and you could end up turning it into a business to still help those people, like just to talk a little bit about that sweet ride business that the guys are starting. here, it was a need for free transportation and free food delivery for restaurants. And look at what the restaurants have gone through this in 2020, even now, even into this year. They're looking to, that's something as a side hustle for them. They both have full-time jobs, and they're looking to start this as something to help people that are, in the Hershey area. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's all forms, and we can definitely talk about them here in a couple minutes. All different types of forms of, stuff that we've seen. Obviously, Ray here he said my favorite side hustle that got me through the COVID shutdown: pizza delivery. There you go. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? Like you have to make ends meet. But and that was a lot of, especially this year or last year was a big thing. Why a lot of people were looking for little side things and stuff like that. But that article that you sent me, there was a very interesting stat in there. It says 61% of millennials work on their side hustle at least 3 times a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty interesting. Like to think that even like some even professionals like super like doctors and stuff like that even have side hustles as millennials. I think we don't want to just I think because we talked about this before, I think, where we're not so much of like, hey, I show up to work, I do my job, I go home, and then I wait to go back to work again. Right. I think we're always kind of trying to be involved in something, the culture, right? We want to be kind of a part of something.
Right. So. Yeah. I also think you made a good point there that made me think of something. The side hustle, even though we talked about bringing in extra money and extra income, and it's not always about the money. I mean, maybe it's you think that it's going to bring you way more than you're making, now, but there's definitely people that are doing very, very well and are just they have an idea, they have a service, they have a product, they have something that they want to start. It could be somebody that, like you said, like doctors that just want to have something on the side too. Not always about the money. It might just be something, trying to see something through from start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, a lot of these side hustles can start at a point, like you're like, I'm just, making a couple extra. I think another stat I saw in there, I think it was like 45% of millennials that started a side hustle at least make $500 a month doing it.
Right.
And so, I think a lot of side hustles can, take a life of its own and become plan, instead of plan B, it's plan A.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think that sometimes it's, wanting to feel fulfilled. Maybe you're not feeling that way in your full-time job, and there's a hobby that you have on the side that you can earn extra money. I'm working with a guy in Hummelstown who is a full-time, he does similar to Brandon does, it was, I think, cybersecurity and IT, but he takes amazing photos, and I'm trying to help promote him, and he would love to do photography full-time. He just, the money's not there to leave his full-time job. And I get it. I didn't leave my, full-time until 2013 to take my business full-time. You definitely have to have that security there that, financially, whether you have a family or not, and you can support yourself. But I think also it's trying to build that balance between the 40-hour work week, if that's what you do. And, like if you say they average 3 days a week, how do you juggle both, but turning one into more income, let's just say, than your full-time job.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the return on investment, right? What you're, but like we were talking about before, I think it's not just at the beginning, it's not just about the money. I think it's passion. I think you got to be passionate about what your side hustle is. And usually people turn what they're good at, or what they're like your friend, he does cybersecurity, but he really probably enjoys taking photographs. And now he's like, I can make some money at this. Right. And then Brandon commented, what's the best way to start a side hustle? We'll be definitely getting into that here in a second. But another thing that I found really interesting in reading that article that you sent is, and I think we do a little bit of this, and I don't think we did it like knowingly, but I think it kind of just happened. That it's a lot about strategy too. Maybe some of your side hustles lend you to expand your network and help you in your main business, right? Maybe like, for instance, this podcast, right? Yes, we love doing this podcast, right? We absolutely love coming on here and talking about all things millennial, right? But we also know that at the same time that this podcast gets our name out there, right? People see us, people get to know us, they get to see how we interact with each other. And, that might lead to, them doing some design work with you or something with me, right? So I think strategy too can also be
right. Yeah.
added value.
Almost something that is in that, I don't want to say in that field, but something that you could do to then reach, there's people who somebody might have I don't know. I know there's a woman that has a real estate business, and she started doing a podcast and a blog and stuff. And I don't know about it, if she's making money on it, but it's like things very similar where you can expand your outreach in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, and I was just thinking about that. You had mentioned before, like this is kind of like our side hustle. It's like I've upgraded my side hustle. Like I've got new lighting now. I got a microphone.
Oh.
Like I'm moving on up. I'm trying to get 10K in followers, right? Like we're trying to make this thing happen. So, but
I have a question before. Did you at all look at some of like the top picks for side hustles? Because I had found something that actually had some interesting, ways to earn like extra cash as side hustle. And we could go over that too, because one of them obviously was interesting, was freelance graphic design, which is, I have my own business, but obviously like I do freelance, so there's definitely things when you have a full-time job, you can freelance on the side. If you work for a company doing photography, but then you do something on the side for yourself. There's different ways, like even in the same industry, that you can do a side hustle too.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to kind of go over that list. And before we do, I have a recommendation for a book for you. I just read it. I just talked about it on Wednesday in one of my lives, and it's such a millennial book. Look at the name of this book.
Oh, yes, you did talk about it. I saw that.
Buy the Avocado Toast, right? If that's not a millennial type of book, I don't know what is. But it's a great book, and she talks about like side hustles, but she she has a list of things that actually work and a list of things that don't work, because she did them. Like, I don't know if you ever seen like, hey, you can do this survey and you'll get some money for doing this survey on this business. She's yeah. She did a bunch of those, and she's like, don't waste your time.
You see the ads for like playing solitaire and playing cards and like gambling, and like you could get $250 a month just for playing a solitaire game on your phone. I don't know if it works, but
yeah, I don't know about those, but what's the list? I want to see the list that you kind of were talking about.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it's really interesting because some of these, I know a lot of people that do these and wasn't really considered a side hustle, in my opinion. Like now that I see it, it absolutely is. But I just wanted to say before I share this, that I had the conversation with the guy from college that I had talked about last week on the podcast, that he wanted to run some opportunities that he had for his business, and I assumed it was going to be design. He was web design, I was graphic design, and I thought it was going to be something that he was asking me about, was starting my business and freelancing and all that. And ironically, he saw that I had started posting some things on my social media, and some things maybe he could tell I was going through some changes, just I guess with my my move and the breakup and all that. Like people can see that, right? Like they can sense that. I get it. I'm not like overtly putting all these sappy quotes, but I'm putting some stuff here or there that's like motivational. But he could see that. And I think that he reached out and he said, I'm going through some changes too. And he's actually getting divorced. But real quick, what's funny was he's taking his side hustle to into like not necessarily a full-time job, but he's actually pursuing it. And him and his ex-wife had a business where they went and purchased old antique furniture and they resold it. They like kind of like what I was just saying with Gary Vee says, go to yard sales, go to places and buy stuff and then resell it. I mean, if you're looking for extra money, that's an easy way to do it. But they would buy all this old antiques and resell them, and they did very well. And he had started doing Excel spreadsheets and inventory and accounting and profit, cost, like everything that you need, obviously, to start this as a business. And they did really well, and they were organized. And unfortunately, with the divorce, like, he's not pursuing that. But during all that, one of his neighbors had a lathe, which I'm not sure what it is. Like, I had to look it up. And he made a couple
machine.
Wooden bowls with this lathe. And I asked him if I could talk about it today because it's the perfect example. He made these wooden bowls and they're great. And then so he's going through all this change in his life, and he says, full-time working, doing digital marketing, web design, what he went to college for. But he loves making these bowls. And he went out and said, could I go? He's Philadelphia area. So he goes, could I go and do like this makers area, borrow, use all the pieces that are there and pay to have a space and do all this stuff and drive 45 minutes. And, yeah, I could do that. But he was like, I'm probably not going to put all the effort in if I have to do all that. So he went and bought his own lathe, and it was about $1,000. And so he invested in this. He got all his pieces, and he said, if I know that I'm going to have it in my garage, I'm going to make 2 bowls a night or something. That might be unrealistic, but whatever he said, 2 a week, I don't know. So all that said, I mean, I'm so excited about, talking about these side hustles, because even just now I'm learning about people who are doing it, and wooden bowls, like, is nothing that we went to school for. It's not digital marketing and web design and graphic design, but he's got all the experience he just said, I'm going to do an Etsy store, a Shopify. I have, the graphic design. And if he needs stuff, I can help him. He does email marketing. He does all the stuff to promote his product, that he has all of the background. And he even started with the inventory and knowing his cost and knowing his markups and all that. It's like this great opportunity for him that he's seeing in front of him and he's going to take. So
that's awesome. Like, and a lathe is an amazing machine. It is a scary machine. I don't know if you've ever seen it in operation, but it basically spins a piece of wood really, really fast. And you basically like put like a little like chisel thing, and there's different chisels and stuff like that. And like, if you ever look at a leg on a table, and it has all those intricate, like, that's how they make those things. And wow. I've always wanted to use one, but that thing like terrifies me. Yeah. There's actually a place in Lidditz over here that a guy does that. He has a store, and he will do like live, like him making stuff. And he makes a bunch of stuff, but he makes these rings, like wedding rings, out of wood, like out of old reclaimed wood. And that's so, but that, I mean, the same thing with him. I was talking to him, and he was just like, yeah, I just love woodworking. I think he was like some kind of construction guy. He's just like, I just hated doing that. And so just started this. And I was like, that's awesome. Like,
yeah. It's funny because it wasn't at all what I was expecting him to talk about. I thought it would definitely be in our fields, but I'm excited that, I mean, we're artists, so I feel like, it's in line with that. But we even talked about the podcast, and I told him about how we've talked about opportunities that come, and also our goals, and like keeping ourselves and other people accountable. So we're actually going to check in with each other on some of our own goals and stuff to say, hey, what have you done this week and where are you at and all that. So it's like a new person that, that I can add to my list of surrounding myself with people who are pursuing their goals and their dreams and stuff too. So Brian Davis wrote, yeah. bring the fire, y'all. Yeah,
Appreciate it, Brian.
absolutely.
But here's
You
it's
want me to
such an amazing thing to, huh?
You want me to run through this list?
I just want to mention one thing really quick. It's kind of like, I think, like I was talking about it with somebody else the other day, actually yesterday. And, if you look back like 20, 30, 40 years, like if you look at all the businesses, I would say a huge chunk, I don't know exact percentages, but I feel like the bigger chunk of the businesses were entrepreneurial type of businesses, right? They were just all over the street. And then you saw a bigger shift to bigger corporations. And that's what kind of the millennials went in, right? And I was like, well, my dad was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. His grandfather was an entrepreneur. I'm the only one that went corporate, right? And so it's like, maybe it's like a mind shift. Maybe we're all trying to get back to equilibrium, right? Like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing, creating businesses, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, that's just kind of my thought on that.
We did our podcast on entrepreneurship, and I think that, the side hustles in a sense are ways of being an entrepreneur. so, I'll definitely read through this. I mean, there's a lot, but maybe I'll just highlight a few of them. So start a blog. We talked about that. I think there's people who, can actually end up making money as an, one of them on here, become an influencer. Host Airbnb. This was an interesting one because I never really thought of Airbnb as a side hustle, but obviously you can make a decent amount of money renting your house or your apartment. Drive with ride sharing apps, like we said, Uber. So you can freelance. So Fiverr is a website for artists and, graphic designers and illustrators and web designers and all that. Walk dogs with Rover. So dog walking. My sister actually was doing that after she got diagnosed with MS and she had lost her job. And, before she wasn't able to really, walk as much, she was doing a lot of dog walking and she was doing really well as her side hustle. And it was on Rover. There's an app that you can use. So, she just loves dogs and she wanted to be around them and she started dog walking.
Hold on real quick. Ray said before the list, I have a counterpoint. I think so. We have a counterpoint. I love this.
Okay.
Challenge us. I think a side hustle is a great idea as long as it doesn't, the main gig doesn't suffer. And I totally agree with that. And I think one of the things on my list of what to do as, when you're thinking about starting a side hustle was time management, because you got to make sure that you're not, tapping into that. But counterpoint to you, Ray, if eventually you want to start, if you want your side hustle to be your main gig, then there's going to be a flexion point where you're going to have to make that choice whether or not, hey, I step away from this thing. It's where I was at. I was getting to a point where I was seeing I had too many clients to see, right? Didn't have enough time because I was working 8 hours a day at my job. So, so there's going to come a point where you're going to be like, holy, you know what? Am I going to make, am I going to make this decision? And that's where it becomes too. And I think Ray's got a couple more. So
yeah. And I think to this point, and definitely if it's something on the side that you're just trying to bring in some extra income or, fulfill a hobby and just do something on the side. Absolutely. I agree. You don't want to be showing up for late to work or getting fired, obviously, from your main job. I mean, you could easily be, spending more time on something that you're maybe not making as much money, or, we have our commitments to obviously our full-time thing. But I definitely think that there comes a time, like you said, at some point where you have to strategize on, am I gonna go from, 75%, obviously we should be working 100% in all of our jobs, what I mean? Our time, are we going to, lean in and switch over to doing that full time? Absolutely. I agree. And, not just your main gig, how about your family and your home life and your children? So we also want to consider, it's a great point that he brings up that, the side hustle also doesn't take so much time away. You're working your full-time job, then you've got your side gig on the side, and you are taking that time away from your relationship or your family, like it's hard. It's a lot. And I think that, there has to be some communication. You and Megan are really great about that. And when you switch jobs and everything, Ray makes a really good point. You have to have that, that's a whole nother conversation, but you need to have that communication with your significant other and your spouse and your family so that they understand fully that your commitment is to them, and this is something on the side, but open communication, I think, is obvious.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I told my family, and me and Megan sat down and talked about it, is like when you're starting something, especially like if it's a side gig that's going to replace the main gig, once you step into that side gig as the main gig, I mean, you're going to expend a lot of energy and time. And so I told them up front, I said, the first like 2 years or so is going to be me grinding a heck of a ton. And I might not always have the time that I want to devote to you guys, but I promise you, if I do this, if I hustle this hard for 2 years, I'll make it, I'll free up enough time at that point because I've hustled for 2 years straight, right? Or whatever your time frame is. But
and you always say this, and you've gotten this kind of ingrained in me also, is like, don't forget your why, and I think we've talked to a couple other people about that, and it would be, are you doing this to support your family more? Are you doing this to fulfill a dream? Are you doing, not to forget about your prior commitments and priorities too.
Yep.
So yeah, some other ones were become an Amazon seller. Sell on eBay, sell on Etsy, sell on Shopify. So if you have products, if you have things that you make, or maybe you're buying, maybe that's the only thing we said, you're buying stuff and you're reselling it. My uncle retired from the government, I don't know, 15 years ago, and was going to road shows, like antique road shows almost. And he was buying, now he had to put hundreds, if not maybe a couple, $1,000, let's just say, into something, but he sold it for $5. Like, he knew how much it was really worth. And he was actually doing that after he retired. So it's interesting. Ticket reselling and reselling domains. I haven't heard that, but
That'd be interesting.
Start your own podcast. That's a good one. I think that there's definitely opportunity for sponsorships and getting paid gigs, once things grow. Starting a coaching business. So that's a great thing. If you're, not necessarily, you don't have to be an expert in something, but I think if you're really good with something and you really want to help people, I've seen a couple of business owners that are photographers that started doing coaching, or financial advisors that started doing coaching, and they make extra money on that. But yeah, becoming a consultant, affiliate marketer. I think that might be what you were going to say was multi-level marketing, and then buying and flipping for profit. So real estate, if there's people who are looking that are handy, a lot of contractors actually buy, properties and then, flip them and make extra money on the side too.
Yeah. I mean, those are all, I think those are really all good ones. Actually funny, in this book, they had a profession in here where it was like things that you could do for free and still get paid for. And so there's this thing where you can actually you go to like an online course for 6 months, it's free, and you learn Braille, and then you transcribe books into Braille.
Wow.
And I think like she did like 2 books and like made $18,000 doing that.
Wow.
in like 6 months or 7 months. So, that's I thought that was a pretty cool idea to kind of do. But yeah, like there's a ton of opportunity out there that are already kind of set. Like you can Google side hustles. I'm sure you'll see like 500,000 like selections.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting too to find something that you don't always have to do that. You can find something that, or whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I think that most side hustles that I've seen in our friends, and it just gave me a really good idea. why don't we do a millennial side hustle guest once a month? And whether it's on a Friday or we do it like on a separate day, like side hustle Saturday or side hustle Sunday, okay? Because I have a couple friends that are actually starting their side hustles, and I don't want to give someone, too much of it away, but I've just seen a lot of people, whether they're stay-at-home moms or whether they're, work full time and they want to want to start something. Maybe we could talk about it and promote it, because there's other people that might be in the same boat, like the entrepreneurship podcast that we did. I have a couple friends that bought the Cricut machines and were crafty and started doing stuff for their own kids for parties, making things at home, the vinyl letters that you can put on Yetis, and just little things like that, and even maybe shirts. And then they took what they were doing just for themselves and their kids, and did an Etsy store and started selling it on Facebook. And there's a lady that I buy. One of my secret weapons for all my parties, mostly kid parties, but in like bridal showers, is cake balls. They're like cake pops. But I try to be secretive, so then I'm the only, I'm the only one that has like the cool stuff. But I'd actually promoted her stuff in my wedding, which was how many years ago? And her stuff was in a magazine, and I got all my friends on it, and I would hope that helped her, but she was basically just doing it, for small orders, and it took off. So I think that there's things that people are doing for fun, for their kids, for it's a hobby, cooking. They got into meal prep, and then they decided they liked it so much for themselves, all of their friends wanted it too, and then now have a meal prep business. There's definitely so many different things that it's also just things that you're doing at home already, and you're like, wow, everyone loves this, why don't I start to sell it? And then I think, to Brandon's point, how do you start? We can definitely talk about that, but I think it's it's stuff, a lot of it's stuff that you're already doing for fun that you really love.
Yeah, I think it's a great segue to kind of talk about, what are some things that you should look for when you are starting a side hustle?
That bear
is barking at some UPS driver or something that just got delivered at the house. It's weird because we ordered all our Christmas presents, right? We ordered them way in advance, and it's like Christmas all over again. Sometimes you're still getting presents from Amazon.
Not even just Amazon. Stuff from family members, friends. Me and my Facebook Marketplace. Let's not talk about my addictions. But I just got one today. It was like the beginning of December. It's just a curtain rod. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got my lights came yesterday, and I didn't expect them to come, and then all of a sudden they were here early. I was like, this is new. Actually getting here early. So but Bears wants to be part of the podcast too, so he's making his voice known too.
Give us his peace of mind and his side hustle.
Yeah. His side hustle is doing nothing, is eating, napping, and just being Bear. So if for those that don't know, I'll post a picture of Bear. He sounds like he's a mean dog, but he's probably about maybe 15 pounds soaking wet. He's got little man syndrome. But I think we should talk about some of the things that I looked for. I'm sure you probably looked for, and maybe it's just a list of things that I think are important. I think the first one is definitely be cognizant of how much money you're going to put into this thing. If you're an Uber driver, you're going to risk your car, right? If you're delivering pizza, the same thing. But I definitely think if you're starting something just as a side hustle, you need to be careful about, not putting yourself at risk for debt and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's definitely, you know, initial investments, and like my friend who had to buy the lathe and all that. But you know, you also know how much your cost is, how much the products, how much your markup, you know, and having a plan. You've said this a lot too, and you can make goals and you can make resolutions and you can make things, but without a plan, um, you know, how are you going to get there? So I think that a plan and a path of you know, whether it's, I mean, a business plan, obviously, like a business plan, but even you know, what you're thinking to come out of it too.
Yeah, I think a plan is so important. Like understanding, okay, you know, what am I going to be doing? How am I going to sell it? How am I going to make it? You know, how much time am I going to devote to this? How much money am I going to devote to this? You know, I think all those questions need to be answered before you really start doing that. It's like having a business plan. And if you don't know how to do a business plan, just go on Google or something like that. I'm sure there's resources for that.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of resources, I mean, I think just knowing, you know, educating yourself on everything about that, what you're going to be doing, right? So how much, like we said, like the cost of the materials, the products, how much are you going to sell it for? What do you need? You know, kind of making lists as far as, do you need to advertise for it? Where are you going to sell it? How are you know, do you need design, you know, do you need tags, gift tags, inventory, you know, like any type of marketing materials? I think it's just kind of making a list of what all goes into the side hustle. I know this sounds more of like a product in a sense, but I think making sure that you know ahead of time what it all is going to entail, because sometimes it's more than you can handle by yourself, and then being able to ask for help and lean on the people like that, you know, that have done it or that can help you too.
yeah, I mean, I think if you're starting a side hustle that's maybe not necessarily unique in a sense, maybe you do reach out to somebody that's super successful at it. You know, I always tell people like they're like, well, that person's not going to want to tell me anything. When people are super successful at something, their favorite subject to talk about is themselves.
Yeah,
So
helping people, absolutely.
yeah, take the time, and if they don't take the time to talk to you, then they weren't worth talking to.
Yeah,
You know,
they look at it like competition, you know, jealous or competition. But I think, you know, as artists and creatives, we don't have typically a business sense sometimes. If there are people out there, please comment or reach out to me in how and what is going on in your brain that I can do for my own to change this. But I just reached out to a friend that is very, very business savvy, and his mind is just like big time $1 billion business, right? I mean, just straight track. But his business partner is more of the creative. And that's what's funny, because I'm that, like, you know, tends, and I always say, if I had a business partner that was the finance and the business side, I'd be I'd be making $1 million, like, because of that. And I think that there is something to be said about, you know, we're not all going to have the right brain, left brain, and the experience and just, you know, thought process, but making sure that you can lean on those people that can, to get advice, and, you know, just bounce ideas around and stuff like that too.
yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in hiring out things that you're not good at. Like, I am not good at design. There's no way I could make something like this. or as good as that, right? I could probably do it, but it would take me a lot of time. It would take me a lot of effort. And that's other time I could be using to do something else in my business or spend time with my family, right? Like,
absolutely true.
you know, like
You don't have to tell me. I just had this conversation with my friend Chris last night about his whole business. And I said, look, you know what? You know, I've gone through over and over my head about my online store and things that I want to do with the invitation side of my business. And I'm really getting more into marketing and communications that, here's my stationery business just sitting on the side. Here's that is going to be my side hustle is an online invitation store. That's my side hustle, and in a sense, let's just say. And what I was talking to him about was I can do it myself. It's a Shopify site. It's, I pay $30 a month. I waste $30 a month sometimes because I don't have orders, or I'm not advertising, or I'm not marketing it. But I could literally pay somebody, I can afford to pay somebody out of college. And this is what him and I said, this is going to be my goal. We talked about our things last week, and this was something that I've been thinking about since our last podcast. And having somebody, even if it's 5 hours a week, put up 10 products, $15 an hour, or whatever minimum wage. I don't know what's minimum wage. I don't know. But anyway,
$7.25.
Okay, so let's say $10. Okay, let's save some money here, Billy, my financial guy.
$7.25 an hour.
10 hours, $10 an hour, 5 hours a week, $50, and you get up, I don't know, 25 products. I'm not, I don't know what it's going to look like. I need to make a plan. But not only that, I can afford to pay somebody that and at least get something done versus me sitting here thinking about it, talking about it, BSing about it, and not doing anything. I'm getting riled up. I'm yelling about this but I need to just pay. I just need to pay somebody to do it for me because I'm not doing it. I have my full-time stuff over here. I've got the podcast. I've got this, but I still want to see it through. And maybe I just need help. I mean,
No, I totally agree. Like you're preaching to the choir because I always say if somebody can do 80% of what I can do, I'm gonna outsource that. And so I could have monetarily saved money on clearing our backyard, right? I could have saved monetarily on that, but time-wise, sweat, right? All that other stuff that goes into that, taking a Saturday to do it, right? That didn't make any sense. I hired the guys, they came out, and in an hour it was cleared, right? So it's I think
me paying somebody $50 to put up images and put up the put the listings up and put all that is going to then make the profit when the stuff sells. But over here, I could be doing $1,000, and paying someone $50. And that's where I think I have to change my mindset on, like I said, the business side. I've got to I'm trying to learn from people who are more business savvy and more, like strategic in their thinking. It's like how their brain works. My brain just doesn't work that way. But I think that hearing it from people and understanding it and switching from that, creative and, me, I'm such a yellow out here squirrel. But I think that's, really helpful is hearing the hustle, the side hustle and the grinding and all that from other people and the business sense and what they're doing. It motivates me too to get my shit together.
Yeah, it all comes down to, and it's just not monetarily slow startup. Like I was talking about, it's about time. It's all about your return on your investment. If
Right.
that's something, if you're looking to make a profit, it's all about figuring out how can I use my time more effectively to make the money that I need to, right? And so what does Ray got here? He says, leverage, figure out what your time is worth. If you can hire somebody to do it cheaper, then what is your time worth? Do it all day. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's experts, and that's why you have experts, right? And you go to those experts to take care of your problem for you, so, I mean, but, another thing is that I looked for in starting a side hustle, which was, I guess, in the world of finance, is finding a problem and trying to solve it. I think that's a big one.
Right.
Like if people have a problem in a certain area, maybe you're the solution.
Right. I'm singing the song, if you got a problem, hey, I'll solve it.
But that's how most businesses start. People have problems and they sell the solution to that problem, whether it be weight loss or, whatever, right? Lighting for your podcast, they have the solution for it. So I think that's a big thing. I think another thing is, and we kind of talked about it, definitely I have written down manage your time. But I think a big thing too with managing your time is not, and I think you might have mentioned it, is not taking on too much too soon, right? You can yeah. I mean, people do it all the time. Like you try to do everything, and what's that old saying? A jack of all trades, a master of none. So, a book I'm reading right now is called The Atomic Effect, and it talked about getting 1% better each day. Instead of trying to do it all in one day, you each day you just get a little bit better. You learn something new. You get better at this process, right? And you master that. And if you got 1%, the guy says in the book, if you get 1% better every day for a whole year, you're 365% better than where you were. So it makes sense logically. But
sure. I think it's also talking to people, having conversations and talking to people. I have my best friend's an amazing cook, and she's thinking about doing something on the side, and it's just from experiences that you're going through, seeing what's happening in your life. The changes 2020 really, like we said, had some big changes for us. And, are there things that you love to do that you can make somewhat of a profit on, or that you could, keep yourself busy? You could have a purpose. You could make, just all those things that if you're questioning, there's, having conversations with people about it, because she knows that I have had my own business. A couple other of our friends have their own businesses, and it's just putting that thought, even just that little seed, like we said, planting that seed and having that conversation. It might be something that's 6 months down the road or a year down the road, but maybe there's opportunities that are going to come just by having conversations with people. Somebody says, oh, I was thinking about adding this to my restaurant. Why don't you make them for me? Like, who knows? I mean, it's just kind of putting it out there and seeing, what could come of it too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think everybody should at least explore a side hustle. It might not make you a ton of money. It might not make you like super rich, but I think it gives, a lot of us, we're so defined by what our career is, that I feel like sometimes we can't separate that when we get home. And so I feel like a side hustle not only might give us a sense of purpose that we don't feel at work. So I feel like it's a good opportunity for people to maybe get that entrepreneurial bug, that bite, and all of a sudden you create something that maybe might have never been created before if that wouldn't have happened. So I always say explore every opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it could be something that you're good at, that it doesn't have to be a product, or it could be a service like what you're doing, or, helping people, counseling people, just there's so many different things that so many people are good at. If you hear something like, oh, you're really good at this, or you've really helped me with this, or, maybe it's something that you can end up doing for a lot of other people if you've done it well. My mom started painting rocks. It was more of like a therapeutic thing, and she loves to go searching for them and find them. But hey, I could say, Mom, why don't you sell your rocks? She became really good at painting them. Hey, here's something that you're doing as a hobby, and it's, you're putting a lot of time into it. Maybe you could sell them. I don't know. Right? Yeah.
If you break even, but if it makes you happy, that's good too.
Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's a good kind of segue to our favorite part of the show, one of our favorite parts of the show, right? Besides the beginning, and then there's the last thing at the very end that we won't mention quite yet because we haven't gotten there. But it is that time, folks, for the millennial meme of the week. And it is Mel's turn this week for the millennial meme. So take it away, Mel.
It's funny. Why does my little jingle like millennial meme? It sounds like such It sounds like Mickey Mouse almost.
I know. I feel like it needs to be like the Disney thing, like like how they have the shooting star go over the castle. I feel like that's what it's got to be like.
It's so funny because in true Melissa but MillenniYell, I was procrastinating a little bit, and I just found it while we were sitting here, and I couldn't find anything earlier. I really looked hard, but I'm just going to throw it up because I think you're going to love this. So it says, trying to prepare for retirement without skeleton.
Yeah.
It's a skeleton on a bench, dead. So I think this is hilarious because although I think you can obviously prepare for retirement, as Billy will tell you, without a side hustle,
it won't hurt.
It might help you to get this little side hustle and be able to add to your retirement here. But if not, you might look like this guy. So
I love that. That's a good one. I'll have to steal that one.
Put it up right now.
But that's a good one. So
what we did, Billy, with our side, with this side hustle, we really made some positive changes and some things that we want to do better with for 2021. Billy and I talked after the last podcast, and we wrote some stuff down, and I had shared my little list on an envelope after I did my video because I couldn't find my notepad, which I found, everybody, because I unpacked my entire office. But yeah, I think doing stuff while we're on the podcast, like so that while it's fresh in our head, like right after, we talked about posting the MillenniYell meme on Instagram and on Facebook right away so that it would be funny, just obviously for content. So, there's definitely things that we're learning and we're growing and we're figuring out. So for me, I know it's easier to do it right away because coming back to it later you have to start all over again. So I'm right now multitasking everybody, and I am posting our...
You know what happens when you multitask on StreamYard, right?
Hey,
That's why Mel doesn't have the controls, guys.
I'm a big multitasker. Many people know I can do a couple of things at one time, but then the other, forget about everything else.
That's what we talked about. Perfect, harmony, right? You're the design. You did the background. You did the logo. But I run the nuts and bolts of the show. Popping up the things when they need to be popped up and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's why I don't golf. Hand, eye, body, distance, coordination, mental. I may learn. That's actually one of my goals. I want to learn. I've talked to a bunch of people is learning to golf, but it's more for the social aspect.
I don't think you ever truly learn how to play golf. I think it's like an acquired, even the best golfers don't really know how to play golf. They just
for social. It's so that I can go and hang, be a part of the crew.
So, but it is the other moment of the show before we get out of here. It's Mel's moment where Mel tells us some word of advice, something funny, something that we can take with us through the weekend into the next week and hold you over until we get back on here and entertain you guys like we do.
Yeah, it's definitely, sometimes it's funny. I feel like sometimes it's more, so, a little punch.
Yeah. So it's Mel's moment. And so we'll have there'll be a graphic here sometime. We'll get to it, I promise.
Yeah.
But Mel, it's your moment. So take it.
So today and tomorrow are my last days of my 35th year, and I'm going to be on Sunday on my downslope to 40, guys. So live every day to kidding. So I'm gonna have a little, I'm having some friends over just for a little housewarming. We're gonna be social distant and outside and stuff. But I'm embracing the new place and this new chapter in my life and another year of experience under my belt, 2020. But just be safe this weekend and celebrate what is happening in your life and what's important to you. It's my birthday. Usually I do it for the week or, the entire weekend. I like to see a Thursday night or a Friday night dinner and a Saturday party and a family thing on Sunday. Many people know I'm over the top, but I'm going to keep it a little. Everyone knows I'm extra.
If you've ever seen one of Mel's parties, a great definition of that party is over the top.
Oh, especially the food, man.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great, but
don't you worry. There's signs, there's food, there's little food labels. Oh, you'll see some pictures.
Yeah. And listen, I was a banquet manager, and I thought I saw some pretty extravagant parties until I went to Mel's place, and so
I'll give you a hint, and then I'll share some pictures. But it's called Flannel Fest. So
there you go. So
yeah, it'll be small but mighty.
Oh my God. Oh man, so many different thoughts with that one. But anyways,
I mean, the party because of Corona, we're trying to
be socially distanced. I get it. So, but anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today. If you did, let us know. Definitely share some people in the comments. Like I said, share, comment on this, download the podcast, do all those things. Just do them all.
Yeah.
No multitasking for that, right? Just do it all and you're covered, right? And so
don't forget. I just want to say thank you too. I'm really excited about the people that have been watching and commenting and joining in on the show. It's really helpful for us to have extra feedback and all that. And it's been really good the last couple of weeks. I thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So, but anyways, guys, like I always say, please make sure you make some good memories this weekend. Have some fun, do some fun things. Try to unplug if you can. Mm-hmm. Do all the cool things that all the cool kids are doing, I guess. But we hope that you join us next week, same time, same channel, and we'll be talking to you guys real soon. So have a good weekend.